You know, here in the state of Nebraska, we're going through a sense of transformation. We're trying to find our place in the world. We're looking at different aspects of economic development. We're talking to commercial real estate people. We're talking about different sites and how we bolster or de-emphasize certain things about the state. So my next guest is very special and pertinent in that context, but he's pertinent as well because I've known the man for over 35 years. So I want to introduce you to Mr. Jim Beatty.
Thank you.
Good to see you, man.
It's my pleasure, man.
No, it's my pleasure. We circle around. We see each other every 4, 5, 6 years.
Yes.
We go through our little chapters in our life.
That's right.
Absolutely. Well, so here we are in WOWBiz, Nebraska, Jim. And tell us exactly now, what is it? What have you been doing for the last about 25 years, something like that?
Actually, almost 40 now.
Is that right?
Lynn, it's NCS International is my company. And
right.
We are a site selection and economic development firm, and we assist companies that are expanding, relocating, looking for new sites. We do all of the upfront work, demographic analysis, incentive analysis, tax analysis. And we also work with economic development organizations across the United States. In fact, really worldwide, we've done this.
Well, I can't help but ask this one question. How do you see economic development changing or evolving today? I mean, it's going through its own sense of change. I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Well, economic development is a process from the standpoint of the development organization of getting their name out to the marketplace so businesses know about them.
Yeah.
And so they're looking at and utilizing a variety of different tools that, say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago did not exist.
Yeah.
Social media, those kinds of opportunities that are there. Certainly print, TV, radio, but increasingly I see social media being utilized extremely by these organizations.
Yeah.
And so they can get very targeted, very pinpointed to their audience, and change their message or alter their message as they want to almost instantaneously.
It's really now, as you described it to me, I would say, well, that's marketing. We're talking about marketing and advertising
exactly,
here, all right?
Exactly.
But when I talk to economic development people who are kind of in the field, and there's many of them in every state,
yes,
they're all over the state, and when I talk to them about the topic, they don't speak so much about marketing and advertising. They talk a lot more about real estate. They talk a lot about real estate and building and setting up a lot and measuring it and so on and so forth. I'm just curious, am I parsing words here, or is there a different emphasis when you get into the field?
Well, for many organizations, real estate and a site is certainly the foundation of the entire process.
It's the product.
However, that, as I have seen it in my career, the real estate is really not the main focus. It's a key focus, but it's not the main focus. It all starts with what's the business climate of that state, of that region, of that city. Are there workers for my particular type of industry? How skilled are they? What's the education level? How productive are they? So it starts with that, but ultimately it does have to come to a particular site. So it's not uncommon that you will see in many organizations, they will tout their sites, their buildings, and that's normal and quite understandable. But the full equation starts with the workforce.
And today we have a workforce problem in America, and certainly here in Nebraska. I heard this statistic, I can't say that I know for sure, but I heard by this time, right now, this month here in the state of Nebraska in late 2018, where we're at right now, that there are approximately 40 to 50,000 unfilled jobs that exist and people are not applying for them or they're not qualified to get those jobs. I think we haven't seen this before, have we? Is this?
We have not. This is, and this is happening throughout the United States. I just came back from Chicago. Before that, I was in Dallas talking with companies. Same thing exists. The jobs are out there, but the talent, it's a continuous push to attract talent to an area. That becomes the #1 driver and issue in economic development.
It's
Yeah.
really quite amazing. And I'm sure you've attended many seminars
Yes,
and
I have.
research is being discussed. Before we go on further here, but what's the core issue? Is it that the colleges aren't pushing the right people out? They're not educated, or our people just aren't motivated anymore to strive for certain things? What's the fundamental core consideration?
There's so many issues in the economic development site selection world. There's mergers, there's acquisitions, the role of technology. Lynn, just 10 years ago, we would not have had the conversation we're having now on mobility sector with General Motors. A couple of weeks ago, General Motors announced massive layoffs in a few states. However, as unfortunate as that is, what we are seeing is a change in how General Motors is approaching the market now. Mobility, electric vehicles, autonomous, self-driving vehicles.
So now we don't need bodies filling those roles. We
You
have
would think
robots.
not.
Everything is kind of going that direction.
Something's going that direction.
Something is
Exactly.
happening. Now, there's a whole bunch of, I think, progressive people in the economic development community that are saying we got to do something with these people.
That's right.
We've got to figure out a way to leverage. They do have skill, they do have energy. Some of them have aptitude and
Yes.
ambition,
Right.
but they don't seem to be able to find their niche. And so they're talking about a whole new sector of learning called life learning skills. We need to train these
Right.
people and get them
Right.
out of the shadows so they don't feel ashamed and guilty, I guess.
Correct. It's a constant process of workforce development, skills training to meet the particular needs of the industries that are existent in that community or that they're trying to recruit there. And so what we have thought of before is, you go to school, you go and get your high school education, your college education, and you're done. Not so. Learning, lifelong learning, skill development is continuous.
Yeah.
It's a continuous refinement, and that's where we see most of the matching happening, or the attempts to match happening by the economic development community to continuously provide a skill, up-to-date workforce. You see that here locally with Metro and how they've changed.
Yes.
And how they're delivering. That scene is true across the United States.
Wow, that's an amazing thing. Let's ask you this. What do you see happening in the future? What's the next inflection point for economic development and workforce development? As you look out ahead, say 10 years, that kind of thing, what are we seeing?
Well, here's what my crystal ball is telling me. One is that there is a continuous reassessment of an area in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, and therefore the opportunities.
Yeah.
Looking at emerging industries, some of whom are not even identified right now. They may not even exist.
Yeah.
One thing seems to be constant: information technology and all of the facets of that and the skill sets that go with it will be, I think, continuous and evolving. Last week I was talking with folks from Investment Quebec about their push for e-commerce and software developers in the gaming industry.
Or the gaming industry.
And we see that all over the country, that an area has decided this is a place. We'll also see much more collaboration between the economic development world and the higher education world, meaning community college, four-year institutions. We'll see much more collaboration in that
So the people
regard.
coming out of the educational institutions are a little more on point.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I think it'll be very laser-focused training and great for the workforce development.
Jim, before we wrap up here, and I could talk another hour with you along
Yes.
these lines, but tell me about your career. What's the thing that you've learned about yourself and other human beings in the 40 years or so that you've been doing this? You've absorbed a lot of wisdom. You've been surrounded by a lot of people. What's one good lesson about evolution of ourselves as a species that you could share?
Well, it's embrace change, don't fear it. That there's a lot of opportunities within change. I've seen the industry change quite a bit, but to embrace it. The industry looks totally different now than it did 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
Embracing of the change, because with the change comes new people, new ideas, and you should really embrace that and use that as a part of your overall approach to business.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
Now, here in Nebraska, we are in a transformative period. We've got
Yes.
about 30 seconds to go here.
Yes.
What advice would you have? You have an incredible perspective. We've got a lot of newcomers. We have Jim Smith, we have the Chamber, we got Brian Sloan. We've got some great people spearheading. Not sure exactly what they're trying to get done, but they definitely want to reinvent the Nebraska experience, beginning with the business sector. What quick pieces of advice would you have to share with them?
Both in Omaha, with the Omaha Chamber, and on the state level, the Department of Economic Development. I'm a former commissioner there, formerly served on the board of the Omaha Chamber.
Yes.
Constantly assessing the strengths of Omaha. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we weren't the data center capital that we are now. We were a call center, customer service capital 20 years ago. Right. Now we're very entrenched in information technology, data centers. I see that continuing to grow. So we have great leadership, and I think the Omaha Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Department of Commerce, are outstanding institutions, and they're well respected throughout the United States.
Are they? That's great to hear. Jim
Absolutely.
Beatty, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
You squeeze a lot into a short period of time. It's our pleasure to have you, Jim.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. I'm Glenn Hinderrocker right here on WOWBiz Nebraska. We'll be back soon. Thanks a lot.